I gotta get rid of this background. It doesn't work. Not at my office.
Hi, Laura.
Hey, I just added you as host.
Awesome.
You told me I spend too much time moving my hair around on camera.
Hard to be fabulous.
I mean, what?
Okay, Laura, do you want to do the PowerPoint tonight so you can control it, or would you prefer me to do it? I can do either.
I am not sure.
I just sent the most recent link to the PowerPoint to your president@GPNA email. If you want to practice sharing your screen, and if not, that's totally
I
fine.
think that if I was to share my screen and then have to flip back and forth, it might be in like sharing to like video. But I'm happy to, you know what, I'll do it. That's fine. Hold on one second.
Well, let's see if it might not turn off your video. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the GPNA meeting. We're just getting a set up right now.
Hey.
So I put this in like present mode and then full screen and then I share it, right?
Yes.
Host disabled screen sharing.
Me?
Yeah.
I see you popped up on our window there.
Will you try it now? If not, I'll just do it.
Hold on, I can't preview what I'm screen sharing, so like I don't want to screen share like my work stuff.
It should let you choose the tab that you're sharing.
Yeah, for some reason. So I'm trying to figure out. Hold on. It just says like unknown, unknown, unknown.
Do you want me to just do it?
Do you mind?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. Or we can. Hey, Eliza.
Hey. So I got distracted. The puppy was out.
It's okay.
I had to get some puppy lovin's.
Hi, Jim.
Okay, can everyone see my screen share okay?
Yes.
Great.
Thank you for doing that today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, I need to get the chat. Okay, so Laura, if you will just make sure to tell me when you want me to advance, and then also tell me, I think people can take themselves off mute this time.
Okay.
The way it's set up, and we can test that and see how it works.
Okay.
But if everyone, if you're not presenting right now, if you would mute yourself, that would be really helpful.
I'll mute Eliza. Or not. Eliza, mute yourself.
Hey, Paul, this is Catherine. Were you able to unmute yourself?
Hey, Rebecca Schultz. Can you see if you can unmute yourself? Hey, y'all, we're going to get started in like 2 minutes. You'll see that the chat is live. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand, or you can always chat us individually. Sometimes it's hard to stay on top of everybody because we're trying to do 3,000 things. We got a lot of ground to cover, so I want to get started as soon as possible. Hey y'all, welcome to the June Grant Park Neighborhood Association meeting. We're so happy to have you. We're just letting people in, probably gonna give another minute or so. Right now we have,
I'm listening to the Zoom call as I walk. I'm listening to the Zoom call as I get the rest of my steps.
I can't blame you. I didn't get mine today. I'm only at like 7,000.
I am so sorry. I didn't realize that I was muted, but I'm glad that I didn't realize I was unmuted, but I'm glad.
No worries, you're in good company.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to be here.
All right, Walter, I'm gonna mute you. I don't know if you can hear me or see me, but I'm muting you. All right. I wanted to welcome you all again to our June Grant Park Neighborhood Association Telecom. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your Tuesday night to join us. I wanted to go ahead and David's iPhone and start with a statement. Wait, let's mute. I do ask that if you're not speaking, please mute yourself. And if you'd like to talk, please raise your hand and you can always chat us over here. Okay. In the wake of the recent killings of Rayshard Brooks, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery, along with many others, known and unknown, I stand in solidarity with those protesting the systematic racism that has resulted in these and countless other tragedies, resulting in the needless loss of life. I want to express sorrow and support for all Americans who face racial inequity and discrimination, especially members of our own Grant Park neighborhood. I would like to encourage you all to check in on your neighbors. I would like to encourage you all to remember to be kind and empathetic. I, as the GPNA president, am committed to taking concrete action to combat systematic racism within our association, and I hope we can all work together in determining on what that really looks like. I would also like to yield 10 more minutes of my time to the president of Peoplestown neighborhood, Chris, and also a representative from Mechanicsville. Let me see, but I want to do that after our legislative update. So, David, I saw that you're here. Do you want to speak? Wait, I'm going to mute. I'm muting.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry. We had like 3,000 people come in at the same time. So we're just trying to stay on top of everything.
No, thank you for doing it. Yeah, no, I'm happy to give an update. I thought things were kind of at max capacity dealing with COVID and a lot of problems that I know a lot of neighbors have had and otherwise, but things have obviously have gotten so much more intense. Before we talk about what we're doing to address systemic racism, I do want to talk about the Fulton elections process because I know that's going to be a concern to probably everyone on here. What we saw was completely unacceptable. I know that some folks in Ormwood had some good experiences. Parkside had a couple of problems. Fanplex was terrible. I have filed legislation today. I chair the Fulton delegation in the House. So all the members that are part of Fulton, the House members elected me as chair. We filed legislation today that would dissolve the Fulton Elections Board and recreate the Fulton Elections Board the following day with new people. I don't know if we have to go all the way with that, but we did that because our request for additional and newer leadership were unmet. So I can tell you this, that already some of the things that I can't even claim credit for that the Fulton Commission put in place, top tier consulting firm McKinsey is going to be coming in doing a pro bono work. I pushed Fulton. They've committed to spending significantly, like over twice and almost as 3 times as much on elections. And we're going to show that Fulton can be best in class. I will say this, that at the end of the day, I was at the polling precincts from 7 a.m. until 1:30 a.m. the next morning, and talked to a lot of people. I've almost done Fulton elections as a full-time job since election day. About 40% to 50% of the problems I put on the Secretary of State's and the new voting machines and the lack of training related to that. I have to put 25% of the fault on COVID and the difficulties that were pertaining to that. But there's a substantial amount that Fulton could be doing better, and we're going to make sure that that happens. If you have IT experience, if you have logistics experience, if you are a professional, I would please ask you to reach out to me. I need you to spend a day at a polling precinct. It's a long day. There is pay. A lot of you probably making more, but there is hazard pay. It's good pay. It's, I think, around $250 for the day, give or take. And I mean, the future of our country is at stake this fall. So please get involved. That'll be getting a lot better. Mr. Brooks, as you know, was killed at Wendy's, shot in the back multiple times. There are three big policy proposals at the state level. We've been pushing Atlanta City Council. There was a little bit of a delay on there. I wasn't involved in all the discussion, so I'm not going to cast any blame, but they have put, as of Monday, they put together a really fulsome proposals that the national groups fighting police brutality for a long time had recommended. On the state level, we passed a hate crimes bill last year out of the House. Of course, I supported that. We've been pushing it ever since. It had languished in the Senate. Things have changed dramatically, and the Senate is getting a lot of push to finally pass that hate crimes bill. I've been on the phone with some Senate people, and I hate to say it, but the lieutenant governor has some really bad ideas on how to change that hate crimes bill. And so you're going to see that tomorrow, his changes, and we're going to need a full advocacy on getting a clean hate crimes bill that protects people because of race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, things like that, and not some of the other ideas that we're going to see come out. So I need your help on that. Obviously, Senator Orrick is awesome, and she'll be working shoulder to shoulder with all of us on this. The House Democratic Caucus has pushed forward 2 things. So, hate crimes bill, the short of how that works, if a prosecutor can prove that someone committed a crime based on race, gender, sexual orientation, other immutable characteristics like how you were born, there is an enhancement of the penalty. In the Mr. Arbery case, we see that because there was a racial slur immediately after he was murdered, and I think a lot of juries would just see the circumstances of people in the South chasing a man down from the back of a pickup truck with loaded weapons and understand that's what happened. Hate crimes is kind of an after the fact thing that's a deterrent, because when you commit a hate crime, you're terrorizing a whole community, which is why we need to treat it differently and more seriously. The other things, though, that would have actually stopped this from happening is we're pushing a repeal of citizens arrest. The citizens arrest bill on the books is steeped in white supremacy. We are going to do our best to repeal it this year. There's very little time in the legislative session, but we've actually had some productive conversations, and I'm hoping that we can get it done. Your advocacy for the lieutenant governor, the speaker of the House, and the governor would be very, very important on this. The second thing is there was a law pushed on a national basis by this group called ALEC. It's a conservative business organization that pushed a bill called Stand Your Ground, which took away a duty to retreat. So now in Georgia and a lot of other states adopted this. You don't have to retreat before using deadly force. And I want to be careful, like there's still self-defense. Specifically, we want to protect victims of domestic violence. If you're in a home, you can't get away. Yes, you can absolutely protect yourself. But what we saw in the case of Mr. Arbery, they chased that man down from the back of a pickup truck with weapons, and they're going to rely on a stand your ground defense. They were trying to make a citizen's arrest even though there was no crime. We're going to take away that avenue. And number two, if you can leave instead of kill someone, then you need to leave. And so those were big ones. Those were the NAACP's two requests. We were already working on that, fortunately. So I'm 100% in alignment with them. And last night, I asked the head of the Georgia NAACP to publish a legislator scorecard, so we know how every legislator around the state is doing on the top issues for the NAACP. It'll be the first time that they've done that. They've already they had committed to doing it. They've already announced that. So I hope we will see a lot more accountability. I am so thankful for this ability to have this national conversation and this change on things that we thought would have taken many years to get passed, actually have a realistic chance of passing. Obviously, of course, I would do anything to change the terrible tragedies that happen. But if we can have a conversation about systemic racism in our country, white privilege, white supremacy, and start to root out the effects of white supremacy in the law in a more profound way than we've had before. It's the best we can do, I think, to make sure that progress is made out of this. I would be happy to answer any questions. And Laura, thank you so much for having Chris Lemon on. I'll definitely stay around. I want to hear what words he has for us too, so I can do better.
Absolutely. Anna, I'm going to unmute you because I saw that you have a question.
Yes, hi. Sorry to be late and I might have missed this information. When did you get the call that we needed 250 poll workers? Because I didn't get the call until 2 days before the election, and that doesn't seem like nearly enough time to train people, and just wonder how we're going to change that in the future. But when did you put that call out, and when did you know that we needed that many poll workers? Thank you.
That's a fair question. I was at there was a COVID testing site offered in Chosewood Park on Saturday morning before the election. It was geared, there was a call for people that were peacefully protesting to go there. And of course it was open to anyone else in the community. I went there Saturday morning to see how it was going, to be helpful and to, check in with some folks. And it just so happened that the chair of the Fulton County Commission, Rob Pitts, was there. He told me, and I put out the call right away. It's not enough time. And it's even scarier that if there hadn't been a chance encounter, that word wouldn't have gotten out at all. So leading up to the election, I set up, so let me kind of give you a lot of elections people had told us that it was hard to make a change in the Fulton County Board of Elections chair and other positions until after November. And if we made a change, we'd be doing more harm than good. So leading up to the election, I had the Fulton County Board of Elections and their executive director on calls several times. They had just glaring oversights. They weren't going to have any early voting locations in the city of Atlanta. We demanded 3. We only got 1. After the first day of early voting, which was a disaster in South Fulton, seniors waiting in line for 7 hours. I wrote a long, detailed letter. It came from a coalition of South Fulton elected officials. I'd be happy to share that with any of you. It's a 2-page letter with just everything they need to do better. We had multiple calls on it. It got a little bit better. And then I wrote another letter several days before the election saying that we were concerned they weren't prepared and that they needed to do better. We were sure they were prepared. They were going to do better. And it didn't happen. So at that point, I've been building a consensus with my colleagues that we need a change in leadership because what happened was completely unacceptable.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to ask a question? Laura, do you want to speak on that directly? Hold on, I can unmute you.
Yeah, sure. Hi. I'd like to know what's being done to address APD's response to the protesters outside of Zone 3's precinct over the weekend. I saw them deploy tear gas, beanbag rounds at retreating protesters, and I know they like beeped the LRAD a few times. Sorry. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous that, I don't know, I just feel like I'd like to know what's being done to address that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And on the video that I've watched over and over again at the Wendy's, it looks like they shot 12 to 14 tear gas canisters within a period of several minutes. My law partner's good friend's wife and child was caught in that. What I want to see is eliminating tear gas and rubber bullets altogether. That's what I've asked for. Councilman Antonio Brown has dropped legislation that APD can't use that. I don't know if there's any responsible way to use that. I doubt there is, but clearly what APD is doing was completely irresponsible. So I believe it's the political moment for doing that, and Antonio Brown's doing it. Obviously, we can call all the city council. I haven't had a chance to talk to Councilwoman Smith about it, but we need to talk to all city council people and the mayor about asking them to make sure that they vote for that and that thing gets passed immediately. You saw what happened when the protest started a few weeks ago and there was tear gassing. And it seemed like there was no avenue for peaceful protest. And then when the curfew was lifted, when the law enforcement laid off a little bit, things were fine. Things were absolutely fine. And then this escalation that happened after the shooting of an unarmed man is not tolerable. Two other quick questions that I see on here, Laura. What skills are we looking for poll workers? I want people that have common sense and are responsible. I mean, I don't think it's rocket science. We have people that show up when they're supposed to show up, when they're supposed to show up. It is a long day. It could be 14, 16-hour day. But the better we run, the faster it'll be. It could be no more than a 14-hour day at that point. But just people that follow through on what they're supposed to do. People that have been successful at anything are going to be able to make a difference on that. And Paul, on the absentee ballots, I highly doubt that the Secretary of State is going to send out mail-in ballots or applications for ballots again. But I would highly encourage people to use it and get it done as early as possible. The problems with the delay on Fulton's End won't happen again, but there will be delays that then unfortunately I can't address. And one of them is the current Secretary of State outsourced the mailing of ballots from a third party in Arizona. We've pinned it down. There's been 10-day delays on that. We are raising hell, and we're going to try to get that changed. But it's an executive function for the Secretary of State. There will be lawsuits related to it too. So I hope we can make a difference. But Paul, yes, Fulton will not delay on processing them. I promise you. Request it as early as possible. It'll come earlier. And then I dropped mine off at one of the drop boxes, so I didn't have to depend on a postal service that has had their funding cut by the federal government to get it back in on time.
There's some more questions in the chat. Why did so many people receive notice of the changes the day after the election?
Yeah. I mean, incompetence. I mean, the problem we were left with when we decided to make a change at the top. I'll give you another example that just infuriated me. When I showed up at the Georgia Hill voting precinct, that precinct was closed because of renovations, and I don't blame the Fulton Board of Elections on that. I do blame them for sticking so many groups at the Fanplex together. But 7 a.m. came, and I got a call immediately. I was about to leave anyway, but I got a call that there was no sign up directing people to Fanplex. So I go down there, and I found all 3 signs that were printed directing people from Georgia Hill to Fanplex were on the side parking lot to the back of the building. I mean, as anybody that lives in the neighborhood knows, if you can pull up in front of Georgia Hill, and if there's parking there, you're going to park there, and you're going to run in and vote. And you're going to walk right out. So I moved those signs. I mean, my question with the letters and with that, was it either incompetence or did somebody not want people south of Interstate 20 to vote? Either way, it's not acceptable, and I cannot for the life of me figure out how come. If you notice that, I don't know the date off the top of my head, but the date on that letter that arrived the day after the election was like almost 2 weeks before it arrived. I'd like to believe it's the right date on the letter of when it was sent, but then it's hard to figure out how there could be such a substantial delay. So it's not okay, and I don't have an explanation, and while we're making changes.
Okay. Okay, so if you go through the chat, there's way more questions. Is there going to be in-person training required for poll workers?
Yes, there is going to be in-person training required for poll workers. And I see the other questions, not receiving mail-in ballots. That happened to the chair of the Fulton delegation in the Senate. Same thing happened to her. It happened to a lot of people. The oversight for those things, oversight starts at the top. I mean, it absolutely starts at the top. There's been an incredible, even with how badly these elections were run in Fulton County, there's been an incredible amount of pushback on making a change at the top. But that's why we had to drop a bill today to eliminate the Fulton Board of Registration and Elections and recreate a new one. So that's kind of internally, we called that the nuclear option because it's very, it's the most heavy-handed thing we could do as legislators, but it absolutely had to be done. So we're going to get people that are going to be responsive. We've been talking to people for the role of head of the Fulton Board of Registrations and Elections. We want someone that's a professional that's been successful, that is willing, just literally for the sake of our country, to devote 40 hours a week to this. And also, you know, we'd prefer African American voting rights experience. We've talked to some people with some really good ideas on both community engagement promptness and customer service. So it'll be a better experience. And I will say this: if you got a chance to see it, the former Secretary of State Kathy Cox, who a lot of y'all remember, she talked about when she rolled out new voting machines, which turned out not to be good machines from an election security standpoint, but she talked about the vast amount of training that she did as Secretary of State to get people up to speed. Our current Secretary of State said, well, it's not really our responsibility to do training. Counties have to do it. So some of it starts at the top with the Secretary of State. You also have a vote on that too in 2 years.
I appreciate everybody's questions. I saw that there's a couple more. Can I direct everybody to your email just for time's sake? We got a lot to get through.
Yeah. My email, DDRE, I'll type it in and I'll type in my cell phone number. I appreciate y'all caring so much.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Leslie, are you, do I need to, let me unmute you. Leslie. Oh. All right, Leslie, you're unfrozen. Can you hear us? Also, David, check the chat. Laura Grass had a follow-up about tear gas.
Cool.
Leslie, you ready? No, yes. Leslie, going once, going twice.
She said she was going to leave and join again.
Okay. All right. In the meantime, Carla gave me her update. I wrote it down because it was like 30 minutes ago. Okay. So she's in a finance meeting right now. They're passing the budget Friday. It's open like all Atlanta City Council meetings are. It's you can stream it live on Facebook and YouTube. The Budget Commission starts at 10 on Friday and the discussion begins at 11. There's been several legislation introduced related to sorry, I'm getting so many messages, relating to the shootings and protesting. There's Leslie. Okay. Leslie, give me 2 seconds. Yesterday, a hate crime bill was passed and sent to the General Assembly. David, I think you talked about that briefly. There was also legislation introduced related to 8 Cannot Wait. That was sent to committee. Another piece of legislation prohibiting military-style vehicles, grenades, and others that was sent to committee. They sent something about the APD standard operating procedures to incorporate alternatives to use of force. Again, I'm probably not doing a very good job because I wrote this down while she listed them off really quickly. They're also increasing diversity and membership to the Citizens Review Board. Please send her your resume if you're interested. There's going to be a BLM mural that they're working on right now at City Hall, and APD policy reform. All of these items are available on the website. I'm happy to list them, and we can put them up with links so that you can follow it through committee and hopefully through its passing. All right, Leslie, are you ready to go?
Yes. Hey, sorry about that. I don't know what happened, but hey, Zoom. Appreciate you having this meeting and being very broad with the subject matter today. So I would love to get any and everybody's questions if you want to put them in chat, and make sure that somebody's saving that so that if anything gets missed, we do pick it up. Fred Huber had asked, I think, in the chat where the link was to donate to Mr. Brooks' family. One of his children is entering APS schools this year. So that is in the chat if you would like to look at that. I don't know what to say on all of that. It is ridiculous. It is tragic. I've been down to, I was zone 3 on Saturday, and from 4 to 6 or 7 p.m. tried to communicate the fact that it felt like there were too many police there for the situation, was, wherever it was. In terms of strictly APS, we have a separate police force that is SROs, security resource officers who are trained specifically in trying to manage and deal and form relationships consistently on the same campuses with students. And I have pushed my colleagues, and will continue to push. We have a policy meeting next week to make sure that we're examining all of our policies and make sure that all of our policies, practices, and procedures are in line with what we need to be doing in terms of making sure that we're helping kids. If you do not know, we have a new superintendent who will start on July the 1st, Dr. Lisa Herring. She was on with the Center for Civic Innovation. They had a coffee this morning with her, and you can pick that up on Facebook. Facebook, I think, had that. If you go to Atlanta Public Schools, they should be able to, if you look through that, you should be able to pick that up. We have a couple of meetings coming up. They're important next week. Actually, this week on Thursday, there's a town hall. Hang on a minute. I need to get out of your window and go to the other one I have. So June 17th at noon, there's a staff meetup with the new superintendent. If anybody on here is staff with APS. Thursday, June 18th at noon, there's a community town hall on Facebook, and the Spanish version of that will be the following day on the 22nd at 6 p.m. The following Monday at 6 p.m. So if you go to the atlantapublicschools.us website, you can pick up on all of those. We have just posted another survey. It's a Survey Monkey that talks and requests input from parents and about their levels of comfort with rejoining the school year in the fall. Nobody in this country I don't think anybody is confirmed about what they're doing and how they're going back into August. And in terms of schooling, there are a lot of options. My guess is, and everybody else who I've spoken with, is that there will be a hybrid model. So there is maybe A and B days. Some students go some days, some go the other. But we don't know that yet. And my guess, August 10th is our day back. My guess is that will be determined mid to late July. So everybody's in the same boat here, and I greatly appreciate everybody's flexibility. And please go to Atlanta Public Schools. It is the mainframe on the Hero flash that goes through, and fill out that survey if you have children or you work in APS. Please do that. I am very comfortable that we have a change in leadership right now. I know that Dr. Herring will bring some stability to the situation, and I'm looking forward to that. So I'll say that. If anybody is curious about anything and wants to reach out, I have a very consistent and very robust community coffee. That is the first Friday and first Saturday of every month. So people are welcome to join me. We started Zooming them, and I think once we go back to meeting in person, when that becomes comfortable, that we'll maintain a portion of that through Zoom, because I think it actually allows more people to join in that conversation. So I'm looking forward to that. I have just in terms of what's happening in the world right now, in a small sense, we have, actually, before all of this came up, there's a conversation that needs to happen around some of our school names that relates to our monuments and other conversations that are happening. So we are going to reconvene. We had already started the committee and going to reconvene the conversation around Grady High School. I know there's a lot of people who have a lot of sentimental ties to that piece, but there's a lot of history there that needs to be properly examined, especially in light of what's going on in this country right now. So that conversation will pick back up, and that is a board decision around naming the name of an entire school is a board conversation that happens. So for anybody else that is interested in our facilities, we had a large facilities conversation. We commissioned a very big look at our facilities. That will pick back up hopefully soon. We have made no firm decisions. And again, if any parents are out there who are concerned about their child being rezoned somewhere, that is not happening. Certainly not this school year. I doubt next school year, but there's a lot of angst and worry about things. And I just want everybody to ask a lot of questions. And, you know, as with everything in this day and age, do not be overly committed to what you're hearing. Please ask firsthand sources. So, Laura, are you seeing questions?
So it looks like we need, somebody wanted to know if there's a way to help out Carver Market with cleanup and recover from vandalism.
Yeah, I think somebody posted that. If not, Google GoFundMe and then Carver Market. I've been following Jeff's post all day. They're getting a lot of positive response there. It's great. So
I think somebody posted on our Grand Park Facebook that you could buy a gift card, and I did that this morning.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I encourage everybody to do the same.
or yeah, just buy nothing. Just give them money. So, and knock on wood, Atlanta Public Schools, the attention is not focused there in terms of our facilities. I understand everything. I don't understand why we can't make decisions before we exhibit and have our communities exhibit a tremendous amount of pain and loss. I don't understand why we as policymakers can't act sooner. So,
Demisha just posted 2 ways to help Carver Market. It's all in the chat. Leslie, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for everything. You've had a good run. We appreciate you. All right. Sorry, I have like all my notes over here. Okay, so I'd like to yield the remainder of my time to Chris Lemons, who's the president of Peoplestown. Chris, I'm gonna try to, I think you're this number. Is that you? Did I do the right one? Chris?
Hello, can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Hi. All right, so good evening, everyone. I was just gonna go over some information that we came back with to members of our MPU, which is V like Victor, and other people from the Peoplestown neighborhood. We met this past Saturday and just kind of came up with a list of demands. I know that some of that's already been covered, you know, from what you all already said, but I do want to just read over that information and, you know, let you all take it from there. But this is our demand list. Number 1 was to defund the police with a plan to rebuild the department on a model that actually protects and serves our community. The next piece is that we would like to see personnel violations be made public for people to review. The next one is that we're asking for our state legislature to create legislation to destroy the statues of the bigots that are at the state capitol. Some of them have like great history in voter suppression as well, if you are interested in learning more about them. The next one is that pensions are forfeited for any officer found guilty or liable of misconduct. The next thing that we ask for is psychological testing for all new officers. And then we also ask for racial and implicit bias testing for all current and new officers. The other one is that we will require officer intervention for any observed officer misconduct, and that negligent officers will be culpable along with the offending officer if they don't intervene. We're also asking for a 120-day moratorium on the use of military-grade equipment, including vehicles and aircraft. Then we also are asking that the city convenes a paid citizen review board to participate in the hiring process of the new police chief for the city of Atlanta. And the review board's recommendations would actually be binding. We're sure that there are other, you know, calls for legislation and other things to happen, but I did want to, you know, lift up what we came back with out of our community, because that Wendy's is in People's Town, unfortunately. And then we also gave June 26, 2020 as the response date. I was able to speak to Carla Smith on yesterday, and she said that she was really excited and looking to actually push some of these through. When she bounced it off of her staff, the only two things that she kind of had concerns about were the personnel violations being made public and the psychological testing for all new officers. But she said that if we were able to maybe do some research, or if somebody has background in human resources, to see if there's any questions around the legality of doing those things, she said that she'd be interested in pushing that legislation through, as stated. So just wanted to thank you all for that time and an opportunity to lift those things up.
I was talking and I was muted. Thank you so much, Chris. We really, really appreciate you coming on and taking the time to talk to us. Thank you for everything that you do.
No problem. You all have a good evening. If you all have any more questions about it, I guess you can contact me and just let me know what was stated, okay?
Well, can you put your contact information, or we can put your contact information in the chat?
Yeah, just put my email information in there for me, okay?
Okay. Fred, can you take care of that, please?
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much. Tamisha, let me find you. Can you hear me? Are you here? Hey, thank you so much for coming on.
Hi.
Hi.
Am I able to share my screen?
Catherine, can we allow her to share her screen?
Maybe.
Today and figure out Zoom.
Let's see.
You probably need to make her host.
Or
You don't have to
co-host.
make me host.
Thanks, Amber.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
There it is.
Okay, great. So I am Nisha. I am the youth committee chair and the secretary of the Mechanicsville Civic Association. In addition to that, I also run the Urban Advocate. I know David's a huge part of Grant Park, and anything you kind of see where he's tagging the Urban Advocate, that's actually me. So I made it a important task to really make sure that we had some tangible outcomes from our MPUV meeting that Chris mentioned as he was speaking earlier. So this list is the official type list, which includes the things that Chris also listed here. And with a couple other things, because as you can see, it's a kind of a lengthy thing, but it represents 5 communities, so it shouldn't be short. But essentially, we got together, like Chris said, on a Saturday afternoon after there was a violence prevention event over in Summerhill at Phoenix 2 Park, and we're able to have conversations, around this. And gun-related violence wasn't an isolated event for us. So particularly Summerhill and Mechanicsville have hotspot areas. Some of you may have heard about last summer at Dunbar Recreation, where children were exposed to gun violence through shootouts as they were outside playing at Dunbar Recreation Center during summer camp and things of that nature. So this is an issue that we've been fighting, and people like the Annie Casey Foundation and Chris 180 have brought Cure Violence to Atlanta. They're opening the At Promise Center in Pittsburgh, and they're putting out initiatives to kind of help us with the issues. But the support that we need actually would come from law enforcement, or if we are divesting and policing, then it would come from providing the needed trauma resources in our communities. And so that's really what the document focuses on. As Chris mentioned, and as you can see at the bottom, we did provide the list Monday just before 5 p.m. to council, elected officials, and we are requesting a 2-week response. And we have action items that will follow that up. I think the largest thing, because I saw a question that someone asked Chris about how can we help or what are action items. The largest thing for this is really getting it exposure, because the more people that are aware of them, the more people that know that there is NPU, that there are communities, especially the community that had this experience and it directly are, caring and we're speaking up and using the energy of our city, the more important it is that we can all kind of band together and support each other in making these things happen. I won't read all of these out, but I did provide a copy to your president, and I'm happy to add the link into the comment, upload a PDF into the comments via file for anyone that would like to open it. Because again, Chris probably listed off half of them, and then there are additional ones that our communities, the additional communities added in as well.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to post it on our Facebook page and on our website. We can get working on that. Thank you, Demisha. We really appreciate you coming and taking time out of your day. And thank you for everything that you do.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much.
And Catherine, while you go back to our slide presentation, I would like to follow in Mechanicsville and Peoplestown and and by calling a special meeting for Saturday at 11 to craft our response to these events. So if you'd like to join a special meeting on Saturday, please email me, president@gpna.org. I'll put that information in the chat. I'd love to hear from each and every one of you, and we can go from there. We can take what their demands are, and then we can discuss it. All right, and I'll announce Stephanie, if you wouldn't mind posting that we're having a special meeting on our website, because we have to post it 3 days ahead of time. All right, our next slide is it's public safety. So Chris Newman, are you on the line? Chris. Sorry, these always go so much better than you plan them to. All right, if Chris is not here, we'll wait and see if he shows back up. I know he was on at one point. I'm gonna send him a follow-up message. Catherine, can you go to the next slide, which is our bylaws committee? Bylaws is undergoing its review. We have, it's being led by our Vice President, Audra Cunningham, who is at her granddaughter's birthday. Anyway, so we have a meeting tomorrow, which is it's optional. It's to discuss rules for conducting online meetings, but it's tomorrow, Wednesday, June 17th at 6 p.m. If you'd like to join, you can always email me and president@gpna.org and vice president@gpna.org. But since she's not on the line, I'm going to take that responsibility for now, and I'll just forward it to her. And our next meeting is to discuss all the edits that we have, which are several. And it's on June 24th, 2020 at 6. Please email Audra if you'd like to join, vicepresident@gpna.org. I'll put it in the chat when I get a second. Okay, homes and history, Paul Simo.
You're on mute.
How's that? Can people hear me? Is it working?
Yes.
All right. We are getting very few requests or drawings or anything coming through, because as of right now, as of today, I still couldn't figure out if AUDC is meeting. I do not think that they have started their meetings up or have anything. They don't have anything on the city website, at least, that they're going to be getting their public hearings going, which means if since March you've been waiting for a type 3 or 4 design hearing for any of our 17 historic districts across the city, you are in a very long line. And I guess we'll find out more about how the AUDC and the city will line that up. If you're waiting for those certificates of appropriateness, it means that you're also still waiting to get your building permit. So we just have a lot of people who I think are on kind of a standby. Keep continuing to contact the city. It is not our committee who makes these rules or approves anything. Our committee is just a voice of our community, and we collect opinions from neighbors when those big signs go up and how we can respond. But if you've got a project that you're waiting on, continue to contact the city and stay in touch with that. On the flip side, if you have a big project, we've said this the last couple of months, don't be pulling dumpsters out and taking things off your house and doing some major projects, because if you're doing that without a building permit, first of all, it's not permittable. But second of all, if you're in our historic district and working without a building permit, there's a very good chance you are going to get a stop work order placed on you, and that's a legal notice that you then have to go through that. So please be patient. Continue to contact the city, and our committee is here. If you're kicking tires or if you're doing maintenance work, which we are getting a lot of people calling about that, which is great. I know a lot of people are working on things in their homes. Continue to give us a call, and we'll help you through any small projects. Things like replacing the shingles on your roof and doing maintenance on your porch, repainting your house. You can do all that stuff. There's no constraints on color or anything like that. Work on your houses while you're there. Just make sure it doesn't cross the line from maintenance to major reconstruction. And with that said, I'll our tip of the month is just going to be just 20 seconds here. I say it this time every year. Make sure that with all this rain that's coming through, you're spilling out bird baths, old planters. You don't have flower pots sitting around. You don't have things turned over in the yard. Even large magnolia leaves that are laying around and cupped can carry a lot of water. And we don't want to see our neighborhood become, a mosquito infestation while we've got so many people who are at home and trying to enjoy their backyards and their yards. Be very cognizant of those who are keeping bees and things. Spraying or getting companies that do come out and spraying does hurt pollinators. So that's my few seconds there.
Before you go,
yeah.
Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Be in touch. I'll be in touch with everybody in July at our meeting. We're anticipating that in August, we will probably start some public hearings on our design regs and some information sessions. We'll see where we're at with public meetings and things. We may just have a big online forum, but we're going to start looking into where our subcommittee has been with putting together our design regs rewrite. We're probably anticipating that to be in August.
Okay, so you heard it here first. The old historic rewrites are on our website under resources, I believe. We can post a picture of that.
Yeah, they're not the old. They're not really old. They're the current ones.
Sorry, yes.
They're just what everybody is using today. And we're going to get into the rewrites and looking at those things. And then as we get into the fall, we've had a committee that's working for about 5 years on rewrites with a lot of different people who've come and gone. And we've got a really strong document, we think. And eventually we'll get to the point where we're just going to do everybody will get some education, get a chance to see the new rewrites, compare them to the old. We'll give you a lot of rationale why, we've dove into them, because since 2001, we've seen a lot of gray areas and loopholes. And, you know, every neighborhood has really pretty much done rewrites at least twice almost. And Grant Park has never done a rewrite. So we'll appreciate your input and your understanding as we go through that. We'll vote them up or down, hopefully by the end of the year. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Okay, I saw Chris join again. So let me see. Wait, did he join and then now he's gone? This is so much fun. Okay, he's gone. All right, moving on. Item 4, land use and zoning and transportation. Rick Hudson, take it away.
Yes, ma'am. The land use, zoning, and transportation met the first Thursday of this month. And we always have our meetings on the GPNA webpage as well as on the Facebook page for people to join and participate. We've been meeting 7 p.m. first Thursday of every month for 16 years. We have two properties actually that are both going to be going to immediate neighbors. One is the 1015 Boulevard property, which they have a couple of residential lots that they want to explore bringing into another zoning category, and as well as adding 2 more lots. And we'll be meeting with the immediate neighbors on that this month. Still trying to work with the Atlanta Preservation Center on actually tacking down a place and time to meet. And as soon as we get all that done, then we will move forward. Second one is there is a proposed townhome development at 460 Connolly Street that goes onto the old Glenwood Avenue as well. They're asking for variances on 3 sides to build 14 townhomes, and we're doing the same thing to immediate neighbors. The last thing is on is Slowdown Boulevard. I don't know, is Skylar online? I didn't see him, but Slowdown Boulevard has incorporated to advocate for slowing down traffic on Boulevard, even though posted speed limits are right now at 25 miles an hour. And we all know that that's not being obeyed. For more information, you can go to Slowdown Boulevard and you can buy signs, t-shirts, and participate in a lot of their advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next thing. Oh, economic development. Samantha Kinley.
Hey, yeah. So we've really been focused on doing some fundraising in a situation where we can't really fundraise very much. So we've got some new Grant Park merchandising. These were really popular last year. So we've got a whole load of the blue and the khaki hats that come in, and we're also going to be opening an online store with some Grant Park merchandise as well. So Stephanie, I'm working with Stephanie to be able to sell these online, and I'll let you know as soon as we can hear about that. But they're pretty gorgeous. I'm pretty excited.
Thank you so much for all of that. That's amazing. You did a great job. Okay. I'd like to go ahead and open up the floor. I'm sure we have a ton of questions, so make sure you send us a chat or raise your hand if you would like to speak. I'll just wait a minute while they come in. Fred has requested to speak. Fred. You're unmuted, I think. Wait.
Hi, everyone. It's Fred. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for granting me some time to speak, Laura. I appreciate it. I'm sorry to meet this way online. I look forward to seeing everybody in person. And I'm really sorry for the reason that I feel compelled to speak tonight. But I've been observing and participating in the proceedings at Zone 3 Saturday and Sunday night in support of the protests against the police murder of Rayshard Brooks and in support of sensible police reform. I was particularly disturbed to see and personally experience the paramilitary equipment that we had on site. So I would like to introduce a resolution. I don't know if we can actually vote on this tonight, but I would like it on the record for the authorities to see and for our leadership to see. So if I may, I'm going to go ahead and read this. I think that I sent a copy of this to Catherine Mancy, our secretary, and maybe Catherine, if you can put that slide up, that would help people follow along. So the resolution follows. Whereas the Atlanta Police Department utilized a long-range acoustic device, LRAD, for the purposes of crowd control on Saturday, it should be June 14th, I believe was Saturday. Who knows anymore? It might have been the 13th. 13th on Cherokee Avenue in front of the Zone 3 police station. And whereas there are numerous families that live in close proximity to the APD Zone 3 police station, and whereas an LRAD can produce continuous volume of up to 162 decibels, and whereas, according to the National Institute on Deafness and Other Communications Disorders, quote, long or repeated exposure to sounds at or above 85 decibels can cause hearing loss. Now, therefore, the Grant Park Neighborhood Association resolves as follows. We petition the mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, to order the Atlanta Police Department to cease the use of LRAD technology in close proximity to residences. And I've cited 2 articles, credible sources, one a government source and the other a New York Times article about LRADs, which are also called sound cannons. Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Do you have a second?
Yes.
Hold on. Oh,
So
yes, several seconds.
This is Jim Boris. I second.
Oh, thanks, Jim Boris. Jack Bedford, do you also second?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to go back to muting you. I would like, the motion on the floor is that the Grant Park Neighborhood Association resolves as follows. We petition the mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, to order the APD to cease the use of the LRAD technology in close proximity to residences. I'd like unanimous consent that the discussion be limited to a 5-minute discussion. Does anybody disagree? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay.
Laura, we have people with their hands up, so
sorry. Paul
would like to speak.
Paul Noonan. Mary,
Hi, sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, it's Paul Noonan and Becca Mountain, and I'm Becca. I'm his wife, and we're sitting next to each other. I wanted to support Fred's motion and then also respond to and I guess give voice to a couple of things in the chat saying that if we can change some wording to say instead of to cease the use, to forbid the use, which Fred also seconded. Additionally, I'd like to talk about instead of saying near residences, just forbidding the use in general, and wanted to know how we felt about that.
So do you want me to, Fred, do you want to speak on this?
Sure. I think that the term residences is very important because I was standing both nights on the sidewalk in front of my friend's home, and they have 3 children under the age of 11 now. Sam turned 11 today. And it was through Megan Gatewood that I found out about this weapon. I had taken pictures that evening of what I thought were tanks. I didn't realize the thing is called a sound cannon or an LRAD, and that it has been used by the U.S. against, for example, Somali pirates, is a weapon of war. The literature supports that this affects most severely children, and I think that's why we need to include residences.
Okay. Becca, do you want to respond?
Yeah, that's really useful. I think that something else that was voiced in the chat, which I was also thinking, is I worry that by designating its or forbidding its use near residences, then there's the possibility for arguing on what is a residence or what isn't a residence, and instead like banning its use within city limits or Fulton County limits, or something like that. Though I think that we might be getting a little far in the weeds there.
That's fair. This is why I wanted to do a special meeting on Saturday, so we could kind of walk through all these different components of this legislation. I mean, or this request.
Then perhaps there's something that we can do now because everybody seems, or at least everything I'm seeing, yeah, I think that as it is now, if we can change cease to forbid, I think that Fred might be right in the chat that since we're a neighborhood association, we should maybe trying to be focusing on what we can pass versus what we can't.
For like right now, do we want to just agree that we'll keep the language as is, and then furthermore we can add, in general, in the city of Atlanta, we ask that it's not used, period.
I'm fine with that, but yeah.
Okay. Jim Voris, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I would just second what Becca said, which is, on Saturday, we can absolutely go further than Fred's motion does tonight. But I think there's a huge advantage to being able to take a stand tonight. And so I support the just definitive statement against using that very dangerous technology next to our homes and children.
Okay. So do I have a second that we move forward with this motion?
You already got 2
Second.
seconds.
Sorry. Okay. All in favor, can you raise your hand? Actually, Becca, I'm going to lower your hand real quick. And then all in favor, can you raise your hand so we can get a vote? Is there anyone against that would like to speak about that? All right, the motion passes. All right, there is another, just a reminder, I do want to take this much further in our Saturday meeting. Please email me, president@gpna.org, if you'd like to be involved. I would love to see each and every one of you there. You can also CC our wonderful secretary, Catherine, who is like the greatest. And so it's secretary@gpna.org. But I look forward to hearing from all of you, and we can spend a lot more time on this because I think it's super important. Okay, Mary Fernandez, I know you wanted to talk. Oh, and if you guys have any follow-up questions, can you just put it in the chat or raise your hand? Mary Fernandez.
Hi everyone, how are y'all doing today? So I'm Mary Fernandez with Oakland Cemetery. We wanted to give you a couple of updates and just let y'all know what's going on. First and foremost though, this Thursday, We're kicking off the start of our Juneteenth celebration with a remembrance walk and vigil on site, trying to use the cemetery, for a place of reflection, and hopefully some community healing. So I absolutely encourage y'all to come out for that. We're going to be giving out maps with reflection points within Oakland that highlight areas of particularly important Black history in Atlanta. And then on June 19th is our day of celebration for Juneteenth, which is the celebration of the end of slavery throughout the United States. As well as, so we're doing a virtual Juneteenth programming and also using it as a call to action for our community and directing people into ways they can support the Black community. I also wanted to give y'all an update on the East Gate. We have started the construction of the East Gate, so that's going to wrap up by the end of July. We're really excited because this increases access to the cemetery for Grant Park, for Cabbagetown, for Reynoldstown. And we've received funding from the project through private grants, including one from Park Ride's Community Building Grant Program. And if you want to hear more information about it, it's on our website. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Would anybody else like to speak? Fred, would you like to speak? Fred, did you have something to say? Freddie. All right. Anybody else would like to speak during open floor? Steve Carr?
Thank you. I would like to make a comment and ask David Dwyer 2 questions. The first is, who's going to pay for the $100 million+ that the new voting machines cost and have, to my knowledge, have not been used? Number 2 is, who's providing any oversight on the mail-in ballot counting? My comment has to do with call-in comments to City Council today and yesterday. Today, I understand that there were over 700, and Monday, I understand there was almost 500. Now, I called in twice, and one of them was 3 minutes too late. So, and by the way, I did speak about the military equipment and the weapons, which I'd like to see banned throughout Atlanta. And to my knowledge, there's no demographic study of who called in. But one thing I did notice is that I did not hear one person in support of the police department in Atlanta. I did talk with a friend of mine, and he said he heard one person that was supportive. So fully 99% of the comments were to either unfund or redirect monies to community development, to social programs, and the like. But for $217 million, which is earmarked as of this morning to the police department, there was so much umbrage in calls. There were some very, very unhappy people. And as I mentioned, there was approximately 1,200 callers, some twice, of course, to City Council. And of all these people, I only recognized 5 or 6 voices or names. So these are like new people that have not participated before, which is really exciting. We're in the midst of change. We're in a perfect storm. And I fully support what anybody can do to try to make it happen. And that's the end of my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. David's not on the call, but I'm happy to send those comments on to him.
I have his number.
Okay, wonderful. Would anybody else like to speak? raise your hand. Fred, I don't think Steve Carr gets the chat on here, but I'll tell him. Okay, well, I want to thank you all for coming out and joining us tonight. I know it's a long meeting, and I really appreciate each and every one of you and all the time that you've dedicated to our neighborhood. And please email me. I put my phone number in the chat. You're welcome to call me if you ever have any questions or you want to know what color your sunburst paint is. Happy to answer any of those questions. Thank you very much. And yeah, we'll see you later.
Have a good evening, everyone. Thanks for participating.